Hey everyone, welcome back. Devstream was yesterday, and now we know a little more about Duviri content and its release date. It appears Duviri still isn't ready, and is a work in progress, but don't fret, it is on pace to release April. How do we know? Because they confirmed Tennocon tickets are going on sale April 5th. This means two things: that it obviously still isn't ready, which is why they didn't give an actual release date, as well as it not releasing in the first week of April. But they would not release the update and open Tennocon ticket sales at the same time because lining them up one after another drums up a longer period of hype than at the same time. And, two, since they committed to this announcement and the Duviri showcase, Duviri is almost actually done and isn't going to get delayed again. When do I think Duviri will actually be released? April 11th is my main guess. Tuesdays are pretty popular days to not start the studio week with a huge flagship update rush, and gives them ample time to patch throughout the rest of the week. Otherwise, my next prediction would be April 18th. The last couple of updates have also been announced roughly 1 week in advance of patch, with the exception of Citrine. This gives them ample time to reveal Duviri's true date on the same day Tennocon tickets go live. If you're curious about the Dex set for Warframe Anniversary, they're delaying it until Tennocon. Also, Tennocon is on August 26th. The track record lately for mainlines have always been 4 months plus about a week. Angels of Zariman arrived on April 27th last year. Veilbreaker arrived on September 7th. That's just over 4 months plus 1 week. Lua's Prey arrived on November 30th, 1 week short of 3 months later. But remember, Lua's Prey was an early update to make up for Duviri being late. It was a little bit lackluster. Usually DE releases a flagship mid-December before Christmas. That gives us something to bite our teeth into until they come back. Citrine's Last Wish arrived on February 15th, which is exactly 2.5 months after Lua's Prey and 5 months 1 week since Veilbreaker. What's important to note is that Lua's Prey and Citrine's Last Wish are meant to tide over Duviri being late, and only together constitute the amount of content we'd normally expect from the 4-month flagship updates. If Duviri arrives on April 11th or 18th, this is roughly 7.5 months after Veilbreaker, and is in line with the next expected release every 4 months. Why is the 4-month schedule so important? Because August is typically the post-Tennocon update to ride the marketing hype. December is typically the Christmas hype update to keep the player base occupied during holidays, as well as when any marketing department always pumps money into advertising. And then April is the update to tide the window between. Last year, the April 2022 update was Angels of Zariman. Remember how big that was? The focus rework, the new tile sets, the new mission types, the new faction types? April 2021 update was Call of Tempestari, which was Sebagoth's introduction, the addition of Void Storms to Railjack, and the second half of the Railjack 3.0 rework from late March with even more optimizations and fixes, and the banger of a song, Sleeping in the Cold Below. Alright, so now that I got you all seated for Duviri, what exactly do you need to prepare? The list really isn't that long, nor is it significantly different from what we needed for New War, so if you felt you were fully geared for the New War, then you are probably already set. Keep in mind, we will also be able to pick Duviri as the new starting point for fresh accounts, but I would still advise working up your Operator and Drifter arsenal in advance, if you have a pre-existing account. Why? Because Duviri is confirmed to have roguelite mechanics. Therefore, the bare-bone tools you can bring in will definitely make your early experience better, even if it isn't your main source of strength later on. For those of you that are undergeared, I will break down each of the topics below. We will be covering Focus Schools, Amps and Amp Arcanes, and Operator and Drifter Arcanes. Let's dive right in. Focus Schools are paramount to Drifter abilities. We already received our second full Focus rework with Angels of Zariman last year. While you do not need to max all your schools out, I would strongly recommend unlocking all the Focus Schools before Duviri arrives. Why? Because the last thing you want is wishing you could try out a specific Focus School interaction or mechanic with a Duviri run, but the school is still locked. It's actually very easy to farm Focus these days with all the changes over the past year, but the fundamentals remain the same. You cannot use a new Focus School until it has accrued 50,000 school-specific focus. The only way to do this is with Focus Lenses, which directly converts some EXP from kills or mission objectives into school-specific focus. It only takes 50,000 per school, and the Focus daily cap has been significantly raised twice in the past 2 years as well. You can slap any corresponding Focus lens onto your weapons or frame and go into Elite Sanctuary Onslaught and pick up a decent amount of focus per run. Make sure to grab the yellow orbs for even more focus gain. You can also get a fair amount from the Zeraman missions when you clear objectives such as Purging Exilizers and Void Cascade. While it may look daunting at first, I would still strongly recommend unlocking all your schools before Duviri releases to keep your options open. That way, if you want to try a build with the tree-specific perk, you won't be forced to look for a focus lens and unlock the school on day 1 Duviri. It also gives you the freedom to try out multiple schools on day 1 to see what suits your Duviri playstyle best. It also means you won't be wasting part of your daily focus cap on unlocking schools on day 1, letting you chase the focus nodes you want sooner. The second recommendation I can give is crafting a proper amp. Yes, some of you made it through the new war, and granted it was easier than a sacrifice with just the mode amp. But anyone can tell you that the new war was still easier with an actual proper amp for the later parts. You do not need a meta amp, though I can recommend a couple. Sirocco from the new war can still get it done, but the fire rate and reload mechanics can prove troublesome and clunky. This also will easily get you an amp that can take down Eidolons with ease after the Focus 3.0 rework, which made us a lot more powerful. This is an amp chart that labels all parts by chronological order of release. Tiers 1 through 4 pieces require tiers 1 through 4 standing from Onkko on Cetus, which can be found back here. The Quill Syndicate ranks up based off sentient cores, which you can farm from Vomd lists at night. Eidolons also drop a fair amount of them, but are unnecessary to farm until unlocking rank 3 or higher. The basic Eidolon shards are all you need for the higher tiers and can be farmed from Tearless pub bounties, and you do not need to do full Tridolon runs, albeit it is faster if you can do it. Tiers 5 through 7 amp parts come from Little Duck on Fortuna and require tiers 2 through 4 standing from her Voxelaris Syndicate. Voxelaris standing can only be accrued from turning in Toroids and also requires specific kinds of Toroids to level up the Syndicate. Vega Toroids are normally farmed at Spaceport, Calda Toroids are normally farmed at Enrichment Labs, and Sola Toroids are normally farmed at the Temple of Profit. Bring a farm frame to boost drops. There are also cave farms, which can take a lot longer but require no real combat. You'll have to look up map guides for those. Meta Eidolon amps are the 177 for sweaty runs, the Raplac Prism, highest single hit prism in the game, Propa Scaffold, and Certus Brace, and 777 or 577 for more chill runs. These are the Clamora or Cantic prisms, which have the highest sustained DPS, and the Propa Scaffold with Certus Brace. The so-called chill run amps I listed are still capable of achieving solo 6x3. They're just harder to do so, but at the same time are much more forgiving in actual optimal amp usage if you're chasing solo 5x3 or less, and thus are very comfy. Yes, the Propa Scaffold still knocks you down through the Volt Shield. This will be patched with Duviri's update in April. In fact, Volt Shield is currently bugged to not block any AoE in the entire game. If you want a guide on how to use your amp properly in Eidolons, I have a video for that at the top right. If you want alternative parts for regular play and dislike the Eidolon amps, I can recommend the 6th Prism, Lega. It is literally an Ignis and comes from Little Duck. Less damage than Clamora, but way better ammo economy and hits further. The 4th Prism, Ron, is a full auto rifle, and it comes from Quill Onkko on Cetus. For scaffolds, the 4th one, the Fat Scaffold, has auto homing and bounces between enemies. It's pretty comfy for killing Thrax units in Zeraman missions. There is also the 2nd Scaffold, Schwack, from Quill Onkko, that basically shoots out an Arcaplasm or shots. If you do not have access to the 7th tier Certus Brace from Fortuna, you can also use the lower end tier 3 Brace from Onkko. These just boost crits for more damage. Alternatively, you can opt for the tier 4 Brace and Spatha, also from Onkko, which doesn't help damage at all, but gives you faster amp and operator energy recharge rate for a better quality of life. Regarding amp arcanes, grab Eternal Onslaught. It comes from Cavallero at the Chrysolith and is also tradable. It has no business being as strong as it is, and is by far the best, strongest amp arcane in the game. I would also recommend grabbing an amp arcane adapter to unlock the 2nd arcane slot, but this isn't mandatory. These adapters are untradeable, and you will have to farm for Void Plumes to pick it up. It requires rank 5 with the Chrysalis Syndicate, so consider this a longer term goal you can pick up later. The 2nd amp arcane you will be using is normally Eternal Eradicate, which also comes from Cavallero. You can also use Virtuous Strike instead, which comes from Onkko if you're using a beam based amp, such as Clamora or Lega. The final topic is regarding Operator Drifter Arcanes. These are personal preference, so I will highlight good options rather than optimal loadouts. I personally use Magus Elevate and Magus Lockdown by default for normal gameplay. Elevate heals my Warframe by 300 HP every time I go in and out of Operator, 95% chance. Perfect for shield gate builds, less useful for health tanking builds that have a larger HP bar. For that, there is Magus Repair, which heals 25% of your max HP per second if you're in Void mode. These make it so you don't need a helmet heal or healing on your melee if you're willing to use it. Magus Lockdown stun locks up to 10 enemies in range with a tether for 4 seconds. A good failsafe for crowd control and works on everything, even Demolists and Acolytes, and no, Demolists cannot pulse it off. It even works on Eidolons if you know what you're doing, but that's a bit more complicated. Other popular choices include Magus Melt, an arcane that adds a massive amount of heat elemental damage per Void Sling to your amp for a period of time. Void Slinging again adds another stack and resets the buff timer to full. Very handy for instantly blasting Void Angels when Void Strike isn't available, killing Thrax, or reviving yourself when you go down and go into last gasp. Magus Fireball grants % damage reduction by time spent in Void mode to produce balls similar to Nullstar. You lose 1 ball per hit received, and damage reduction is tied to how many balls you have. Magus Glitch stops the full shield removal and a health penalty to your frame when your operator dies, as well as preventing you from building Transference static stacks in general. Normally, letting your operator die 4 times quickly will also kill your frame. Magus Replenish restores operator health per Void Sling, but is rather niche. It might have good use in Duviri roguelite runs, so who knows? Hopefully Duviri ships stable and with a full complement of content, as we hope to justify being late by 4 months on top of it being 1 year late of the original loose release date when it was teased. Make the most of these tips and I promise your day 1 Duviri should be smooth as butter, minus the bugs. Cheers! If this is your first time watching, feel free to leave like or better yet subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. 79.5% of you are not subscribed. I'm trying my best to get new information out always as soon as possible, like I've done with the Duviri announcement. Stick around if you want to see interesting memes and builds on a nearly daily basis. Don't miss out on any of that, do you? And that'll be it for this video. Thank you all for watching and see you all next time.